What's up, everyone? So I was reading an article on Ty Lopez's website. It was titled "Avoid the Dream Killing Mismatch," and it describes a concept that I had learned myself naturally from a lot of randomly different sources. And most of these people, um, and this includes a female on YouTube who's quite attractive, who was, she just I guess I feel like she just pulled it out of her head and she somehow just naturally knew it. But a lot of other people, like dating coaches and so forth, who have somehow come to this conclusion or idea. And basically, it's this whole idea detailed in this book by Daniel Lieberman. The book's called The Story of the Human Body, which I will hopefully read in my lifetime. Um, Basically, it's this idea that we are, as a human species, still conditioned and hardwired to behave in a small village of 150 people. And all our conditioning and hardwiring um, pushes up pushes us to those behaviors of that time and age, and it's caused by the rapid change of the environment that our own species has done to us because of the rapid pace of technological innovation, and our evolutionary capabilities can't keep up with that. Uh, we can't just change so quickly to evolve with that on a genetic, subconscious, behavioral level. Um, and that's what I've sort of learned and discovered just from other people who have just seemed to naturally know this. And this book seems to affirm this, and it seems to be a scientific book that talks about evolution, health, and disease. And I don't know if the book itself really discusses this, but the article seems to mention and be focused a lot on this. So one could infer that the book has a lot of this stuff, or potentially the author just went on a tangent from what the book's actually talking about in this article. But obviously, this affects so many different areas in your life, and a lot of people don't realize it. There's so many psychological behaviors that aren't very advantageous um, for many departments of life, like health, fitness, dating, uh, talking to girls, and so forth, that are are failures, or just you don't behave the best way. You may be behaving the worst way because of subconscious hardwiring for a time in our past, which is, in terms of historical timeline, just a blip in the map, but like 10,000 years ago, which is a very large time for technological innovation, which is increasing at an exponential rate. And at the same time, it would be sort of ludicrous for a species to evolve so rapidly, um, in terms of a survival standpoint. So it is kind of smart for us not to just evolve so quickly to changes in the environment. But more concrete, let's get to it though. I just want to point out a few things. I've talked about this quite a few times in some of my videos, but I've usually just touched on dating advice, on how it applies to dating. Uh, a big one is approach anxiety. A lot of it, in my opinion, I theorize it comes from the fact that, hey, you're in a small village. If you get rejected by those 70 girls in that village, or 50, um, that's going to spread. The word's going to spread. If you look like a buffoon, you're going to not be able to marry a girl in your village. You're going to die, and that's genetically a very bad thing because you won't pass off your offspring, and therefore that anxiety comes from um, a stronger emphasis and a stress, which I theorize is intended to motivate you to prepare more for your greeting or approach towards a female, to perfect it more. And I think that anxiety in the past helped those survive and create offspring, which is why that anxiety was passed on. Those who didn't have that anxiety and, you know, acted a fool in front of those few girls in the village did not find a wife and didn't marry and didn't pass on those genetics. That's just my theory behind it, but it is very pervasive throughout most cultures and throughout most of humans in the world. So I definitely think there may be some truth to that, but I don't know. Moving on though, this article actually touches on quite a few other areas outside of dating that this helps you with, or at least you should be aware of. This include sleep. Now we have artificial lighting. Sure, they had candles, but still, it's not perfect. Now we have all sorts of lights, and on top of the gadgets we have, the internet, computers, it's prompting us to stay up later and later. Back in the day, which wasn't that long ago, say 50 years ago, when we still, rode on horses and stuff, 100 years ago maybe, there's a lot less stuff to do. And nowadays, it adds to lack of boredom, and it prompts you to just stay up later and later. When 100 years ago, that wasn't really an option, because when it was pitch black outside with nothing to do, you went to sleep because there's nothing else to do. Also, a lot of other things such as career options. In the village, at least the article says here, the article was written by Mr. Lopez. He said, in the village, you only have 2 or 3 career choices. It's a village where you're encouraged to save and not spend everything you have. And there's little meat and tons of vegetables. Another thing with health, it's like nowadays there's junk food everywhere and it's cheaper because of efficiencies in finding it and producing it and shipping it, and business as a whole. And so again, it illustrates again why a lot of people prefer meat and sugary foods to vegetables, because it was a scarcity product and we are hardwired to it. I've talked a lot about that, and it all comes down back together. A lot of people wonder about that. I have to make a video on that one day. And he remarks on how you find you're intended to find a wife, and most likely that girl you've known since you were a kid because you're in the small village, and it's all this stuff. Same thing with sleeping and so forth. But nowadays things are different. There's millions of people out there, and you meet so many. Your brain's still hardwired to only be able to interact and really know 150 people throughout your whole life, and that's roughly true, because we do have a recognition thing. And you may say, like, I know I have 1 billion friends on Facebook or 1,000 friends on Facebook, but practically, like, how many are your true friends? Like, if you really boil it down, it's probably like 100 or less, or maybe 10. And so it sort of, goes back to that whole concept that we are more hardwired towards that village thing. And again, I'm saying all this, and I have to put the disclaimer, it's all theory though. This is an article that was written on a scientific book, so it's not completely theory, but again, there could be a lot of confirmation bias in what I'm saying. I don't know. So we have to put that grain of salt in what I'm saying. But again, it goes on and on. The Amish, they go to sleep when the sun sets, because there's no light. And another huge thing is that nowadays we have so many choices in every single thing. 1,000 career choices, 1,000 choices of different types of clothing, what to eat, Chinese food, pizza, fast food, McDonald's, and so many choices that just, overwhelm our brains, when in the past we had very few choices. And it can confuse us because we are just, we're scared we'll make the wrong choice. And I definitely think we feel entitled, because of all these choices, especially career choices. We feel entitled that, we need to find a perfect job, or we need to find something that we must have. We're entitled to it, but now that you think about it, when you look at it from that perspective, hey, in the past, like you you were forced to be a farmer, or you only had a few choices: locksmith, blacksmith, farmer, or